Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to this night-ending bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really help the channel to continue to grow and go, and folks, they definitely matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into this night-ending bonus upload, shall we? I live in Georgia, in a rural town not far from a major city. There's a set of woods that's behind our house, and it divides two neighborhoods. It's about a mile wide, if that. Strange occurrences have always surrounded these woods, small things like random trash, tarps, etc. I should mention it's more swampy marsh than woods, so it makes camping there impossible. One night I was taking our dog out. He stays in the back half of the house due to him not liking other dogs. I took him out the side door and walked around the house to the fence. For some reason, when we left the house, he was absolutely terrified. He did not want to go out. Very unusual for a dog who's quick to snatch someone's soul if prompted. Not thinking about it, we pushed him onward. After he tinkled, we walked back. This is when I noticed it. Or, rather, heard it. Crunching of leaves. At first, I thought it was one of our dozen cats on the property until I realized it was matching my steps. If I walked, you could hear it walk. If I stopped, it stopped. There's a small clearing between the woods where one of the sheds are. This is where I saw it. My dog was first to see something, and then I saw some, creature. It was taller than the shed, so maybe a good 8 feet, and it darted across the clearing at a crazy fast speed. My dog, who again is not scared of anything, bolts so fast I dropped his leash and he ran to the door whining. I was quickly behind him. Once we were inside, I quickly bolted the door and ran to tell my girlfriend what had happened. She immediately wanted to investigate, saying it's probably some woodland creature. Armed with 2 flashlights, we went out the front door. As we walked toward the wood line, we could hear something moving around. It sounded maybe 200 yards away. As we scanned with our flashlights, we saw nothing, but we heard it. Then we heard it getting closer and closer until it was maybe 20 feet away. Still nothing. No eyes, not even an animal call, just rustling. My girlfriend now heads for the house. I decided to check with the neighbors to see if maybe one of their many dogs got out. When I arrived at his house, my neighbor, who we'll call Dave, explained that all of his dogs were accounted for. Curious, he came to investigate. This is when I noticed that whatever this thing was, following me along the wood line to Dave's house, and was now behind Dave's house. Gun in hand, we went into his backyard, scanning for something. We could hear it rustling, or maybe running. About 100 yards away in the thick, swampy woods, way too thick for a person to walk, let alone run. Then it stopped. It was dead silent. Scanning the edge, we hear and see nothing, and then bam, all of a sudden it's 5 feet in front of us, sprinting at us. It slammed the fence so hard it rocked it back and forth. Dave, scared, shot randomly as well. Nothing. We saw it. Nothing. Never had it got close to us. Again, as I mentioned, the woods are thick. Too thick to run in, so what teleported silently in front of us and slammed the gate. Spooked, we were about to run, then we heard it. It was human in nature, but not English. It sounded alien-like. Not a known language. Dave, a hunter for the last 40 years, still to this day cannot explain what it was. Anyway, after we heard it, we bolted. He covered me. I ran to my house. Not 10 minutes later, we were both inside and we heard a loud explosion coming from the woods. It shook our houses and flickered our power. I ran outside to see what it was, and of course, nothing. But when Dave came out and confirmed he felt the same thing, we were both once again terrified. Moments later, a few strangers from the neighborhood came driving down our cul-de-sac, and they all agreed the blast sound they heard came from behind our home. 911 was called, and 2 police officers interviewed us separately. Our stories matched. The responding officers refused to go anywhere near the woods. They took a report and left. To this day, we are still not sure what we encountered. Also, Dave doesn't go outside at night anymore. It spooked him that bad. The following day, early, my mother-in-law, a police officer for the town 40 minutes away, installed 2 motion-activated trail cams along the wood's edge. They were brand new, keep that detail in mind. Thinking maybe we'd see something, we waited for nightfall. Later that evening, I went outside to feed our outdoor cats. That's when I heard it again, rustling. This time, not taking any chances, I ran inside and told everyone what I heard. They all piled by the back door and urged me to go out there and look. Reluctantly, I agreed. I took my flashlight and walked to the edge of the woods. Knowing there was a trail cam covering the area, I figured if it got me, it'd be on camera, and my sacrifice wouldn't be for nothing. As I got to the wood's edge, I could hear it still rustling. I'm shaking at this point because I could tell it was maybe less than 15 yards in front of me. Everyone at the door was watching me and could hear this thing. Then it got quiet. For a moment it was gone, or so I thought. Just as I'm scanning with my flashlight, trying to desperately see a normal woodland creature, so I can just laugh this whole thing away. Bam! Something fell out of the tree and hit the ground so hard it shook the soil beneath my feet. It was so close that I was sure it was going to lunge out of the brush and snag me. I dropped my flashlight and ran the 100 yards back to the house in what felt like 2 seconds. I screamed, "Get in the house," as everyone was already scampering back in. They heard and felt the thud as well. Our neighbor Dave called my mother-in-law to ask what the loud crash was. For him to have heard it from well over 700 yards away is insane to me. Once the adrenaline died down, we realized that this happened right next to the trail cam. Problem solved, right? We got the evidence of this thing. Next morning, we checked the SD cards in the trail cams. They have videos up until 11:47. The rest is corrupted. They were both brand new trail cams and SD cards. We reset everything and set them back up. To this day, we still never encountered the creature again, nor caught anything on the camera. Update 1 year later. Things were quiet. We started to forget about that mysterious woodland encounter we had last year. For the most part, my girlfriend and I had moved on from it. That was when, 2 months ago, on a cold February morning, my girlfriend discovered one of our chicken legs were snapped in half. I took her to the vet, and they were confused as I was. There was no sign of any attack or any clear indication of who or what did it. They recommended that I put her down, but I just couldn't do it. I believed maybe with some rehab and a safe environment, she'd heal. I took her home and put her in the pool house. I went about my days thinking nothing of it. To this day, she hops around on 1 foot and is thriving. Anyway, a week goes by, and I come out one morning to find another chicken of ours with both legs snapped clean in half. I ran over as fast as I could to find the similar situation. There was no sign of attack or any blood to be found. I took her to the vet, and unfortunately I had to put her down. At this point, I had a chilling feeling as to what might be going on. I think it's back. Next day, I set up the cameras facing the woods. I spent $700 on the best trail cams and the most well-reviewed SD cards I could find, determined to capture it this time. I made a rule that I'd check them every day, twice a day, so as not to miss anything. Every time I found nothing, just some cats and my chickens doing animal stuff. Since we found the first chicken, I haven't been able to sleep. I've had night terrors, nightmares, sleep paralysis almost every night. I keep having a dream about the woods, something chasing me, something attacking me, getting lost out there. I'm constantly on edge. It seems like every noise makes me jump. The other morning I went to check the cameras and they're gone. Poof. I was baffled in utter disbelief. I hid these cameras so well, not even my girlfriend could find them, yet they're gone. I searched everywhere for these things, every inch of my yard, every nook, cranny of the house, pool house, not a trace. Angry, confused, upset, I put my boots on, a thick jacket, and headed into the woods, determined to figure out what this thing was and what it wanted. Remember now, those woods are dense and thick. Everything's overgrown and muddy, or so I thought. I pushed my way through the vines and brush. Around trees, stumps, I stumbled upon something I wish I never found. A clearing. I stopped for a moment to try to understand what I was looking at. I wish I could share a Google satellite view to prove that this clearing can't possibly exist. But then it dawned on me. Where the hell am I? How long have I been walking? Did I go the wrong way? I'm lost. Amongst my confusion, something catches my eye. It's one of my trail cams smashed on the ground. How did it end up here? It was at this time I realized how absolutely silent it was in these woods. I mean, I could hear my own heart beating. Reality set in, and I had an immediate urge to run as fast as I could in the opposite direction. This is where I am at complete loss. I took what I thought was maybe 100 steps through some dense vines and brush, and there I was, at the back of my property. I felt like I took a minute or two of scrambling through thick undergrowth and it was back. Still absolutely panicking, I continued onward until I reached the back door. I bolted the door and locked myself in my bedroom. I haven't said a word to anyone about this. I called my work and didn't go in. It's been a while now. I am scared. I can't sleep. I believe this thing has been watching us through my bedroom window. I will keep everyone updated if there is any more actions. Hopefully there is not. Today's second encounter. Please bear with me. English is not my first language. Everyone who hears camping goes with the happiness of new experiences and new adventures. Some take cameras, others take their favorite hobbies. In our group, we were posted in a camp deep in the woods situated in Bulgaria. Honestly, we have our beliefs and folklore that we have witnessed in ages ahead, but what we all saw was so different that even I can't explain it. We prepared ourselves to have a good time, some booze, and a couple of tracks up the mountain nearby. We arrived rather fast at the campus grounds, as I was sleeping deep and did not recognize until Maya shook me awake. I blinked away the sleepiness, walked out with our backpacks we gathered around the elders, and listened to the instructions that obviously we'd break later. Getting into the separate rooms for girls and boys, we were all set up for a few days. Went like a flash, and then that day when we were accompanied by two elders that led the way to our local campfire ground. It was far away from camp, so we were walking, talking, having a laugh. A few boys pulled a stupid scare prank, and we were close to our destination. But they say when there's someone staring at you, you feel their eyes boring into you. That was what I felt. I always has been a skeptic, but now all my senses were on high alert. Coming close to the open space with a huge campfire, we all set up our little lean-to-do list. Some were finding branches and sticks. Others were preparing the food for the meal. Some were talking to the elders. And our group was done with all of our orders. We went to the watch point. It was like a watchtower, but without the amenities. It was open and huge, that it couldn't allow many people on it. And in it, it was a breathtaking sight. Coming down, I again felt being watched, like an intense watch that makes you turn around. So I did slowly and carefully, as if not feeling its eyes on me. Nothing there was nothing behind me, or rather, I hadn't seen it, so I went towards our campfire. It was not dark. It was around 13 p.m., so nothing scary, to be honest. But the feeling soon enough returned. I've always had a great hearing, and if something moves, falls, makes a noise, I turn my head always towards the said-so direction. I heard thuds like someone or something was running on four legs. Remembering it was a forest after all, I stopped to see if it was elk, fox, or something else, but to my horror, it hit me. The thumps stopped as soon as I did. I was shocked so badly I didn't recognize my friend Maya trying to get my attention. "Hey, Earth to Dana, the hell, dude? Did you see a bird or an elk?" I shook my head and my brows rose in surprise as I said, "No idea, Maya. Maybe it's my imagination." She laughed and dragged me toward the campfire as I kept glancing back, having a bad feeling about it. We all sat down. I thought that maybe, just maybe, the hunger was making me hear things, and yet something was off. One of the boys, Nick, decided to visit the local nature WC, to let it go. And, strangely enough, he went with his plate with a good chunk of meat. We all chattered already, filled with delicious barbecued food, as we saw Nick rushing back as if he had seen a ghost. We all looked at him as he explained, pointing to the plate that had only sauce remains of where his piece of meat was. "I swear I'm not pranking you. I was taking a leak, and I felt something whoosh past me. I heard the sound of the plastic plate, so I turned around and saw my food was gone." He had a bewildered look on his face. Everyone, even the elders, suggested that it was a wild animal that had stole it, but the look in his eyes told something else. Some of the girls shared her piece of meat with him, but yet we were a bit worried. After collecting all the plastic and remaining food into the trash bag that we had set aside for us to take when we left the campfire grounds, the elders suggested walking around a bit and show a few other places with waterfall and caves. As we walked across the horse path, looking at the indentations in the wet mud, we saw a few rather strange ones and stopped to observe. They were wide as if bears or canines, but how could it be so wide and big? Shrugged it off. We walked a bit further when the feeling hit me again. We were watched by someone or something. As I turned my head, I spotted a rather old treehouse. As I alerted the others, the group continued ahead, not waiting for us. We all walked toward the house, and we saw a ladder. It was just a piece of wood planks nailed to the tree heading up. We decided to climb up as we heard a few twigs being broken and rustling as if someone was running around us. We stopped. We decided to shrug it off, climbing inside. The smell was of wet wood dust. As we climbed in, Nick, who was the last to climb, yelped and screamed, "Get inside now!" We all gathered further into the treehouse, looking at him like he was a lunatic. We looked at him for an explanation as he was shivering and trembling. It was summer. We had our t-shirts on. As he turned and said, "I saw something huge and big down there running past me." We all panicked so hard as we looked at him. I whispered, "It's a bear, right?" He looked around frantically as one of the boys took out a knife, which made me smile because it would be a toothpick towards such a huge animal. He gasped for air as we tried not to panic and not let it hit the fan. We heard some running around. It was the sound of a four-legged creature. If it's a bear, could it climb in the house? My mind screamed. We all stood still as the running now was accompanied by a growl of it. I suggested it was a bear, but it was not bone-chilling as we heard the next sound. It was a mix of a howl of a wolf mixed with a human howling in insufferable pain. We all froze. It felt like a horror movie. We heard something climbing up the tree. As we all stood still, covering in the back of the treehouse, looking out toward the open window, we froze. There was a huge bear climbing up the tree. Had it sensed us? Was it hungry? My mind was going a mile per second as I realized something. The bear was not even looking in our direction, it was looking down. I took a step closer to the window, so did Nick. We both looked confused. What was wrong with this bear? I mean, I'm happy it wasn't attacking us or eating us alive. What in the name of everything could have scared this bear? The answer came with a loud snarl and growling sounds accompanied by thumps, scratches. We both looked down. I wish we hadn't. This thing was so huge it was at least 8 feet tall. It had a huge snout and really sharp canine. It was black and its ears were pointed at like lynx. Its fur was black and its eyes were glowing yellow. We both stood there like idiots. Our brains were going into Windows 95 mode, trying to at least process what was going on. We didn't felt when the others came closer. We all heard this terrifying whispers and gasps. We all retreated from the window as we thought it was trained on our poor bear. We heard someone screaming our names as I relaxed in relief, peeking out to see this wolf thing retrieve. Its body shape was the strangest of all. It was close to a human body, but more agile, more powerful. We tried to climb down as we heard some twigs falling and scratching next to us. One of the girls screamed bloody murder, and we heard a thump, and the bear running down the opposite side of the road. We all bolted down, nearly stumbling and falling out, as we saw the elders rushing toward us. We were paler than paper sheet. Walking back, we saw a rather peculiar moment. The bonfire was broke up, the trash bag was ripped open, and the food of all the contents were gone. The group stood there petrified, and the elders checked for any animal around. When found nothing, we picked up the trash again and left. This time our group was ahead, practically running toward the camp. As the others mocked us, we tried to play it off. As we ran back, I felt again the dread of being watched and thinking that at the campgrounds we would be safe. We all headed toward the old bell tower. It was abandoned, and the bell was ripped off, but the door was metal and heavy, so we decided to close it just in case. Gathering up, we all let out a deep breath and huff, as some decided to hit a smoke before the elders came back and caught them. But I think at this point, nobody really gave a crap. "What was that thing?" said Alyssa, inhaling a smoke, as if it would calm her nerves. "No idea, Al. It was something friggin' bigger than a damn bear," Nick added, still looking at the outskirts of the barbed wire fence. Next spoke John. He was from the United States. He was an exchange student coming to visit and learn more about the country. And he had gulped. "It's not a thing." He hardly spoke. As if something as memory flashed across his face, he swallowed and looked toward the dark forest. "It's a Dogman." Everyone looked bewildered. My grandfather had seen one when he was camping. He said it was terrifying, even scarier than a horror movie. It was gray, though, but it had yellow eyes. That scared my grandfather, and he ran, leaving his tent behind. It was chasing him, taunting him. My grandfather knew if he stopped, he would die or worse. So he hid in a cave, and the next morning a group of scouts helped him out of the forest. He said he'd never forget how terrified he was. He even didn't return to retrieve his belongings. We listened, realizing how lucky we were to be alive. But our peace was disturbed once again by this terrifying howling scream. Everyone started to look around, like damn owls trying to find the source. Then I spotted it. Standing on its hind legs, it was something straight out of Van Helsing movie, making me gawk at the creature before me. It was sniffing the air, and its ears moved as it took a close step toward the barbed wire fence. We stood and looked at each other. I felt dread filling my body. My hands were sweating, and the pulse of my heart was skyrocketing. If I was to face it, I would be dead. Where I stand, and only this realization made me whimper. Everyone was panicking once again as some of the guys slammed shut the metal door behind me. I never broke eye contact. Slowly, I tried to come back to my senses and breathe. The said-so dogman or werewolf thing tilted its head to the side like a curious puppy would, bared its teeth, making me tilt the head involuntarily to the side as its head snapped toward the voices. It bolted toward the depths of the forest. We were quiet for a moment, and then I said, "We're not mental. I know it. People don't get mental at once. This thing is a real thing. It's in the woods, chasing the bear." Everyone agreed silently as we all walked back quietly. Every single one of us was quiet and antsy. Every single noise made us jump and be nervous. We locked everything we could and tried it a few times, still scared of this dogman thing. Honestly, we all went back to sleep, but I couldn't sleep the night as I was on edge. Turns out everyone who was in our group was on edge and didn't have a good sleep. Outside was a full moon, and it looked at it, remembering those amber eyes looking back at me. It didn't cross the fence. It didn't attack us. It could, but the most unusual, it was curious about something indefinitely. It was intelligent. It didn't let me bat an eye as I walked to the window, and this time I felt again watched. The whole skin crawled and was covered with goosebumps. Looking at the dark forest now, I knew it was always there watching us, studying and waiting, but for what, I have no idea. You see, I was a skeptic and a non-believer, but this experience made me and my friends scared to go camping, even if there's a huge group. I'd rather stay inside, but what truly makes a non-believer a believer is an experience of facing it yourself. The bear was enough for me to set uneasiness in the depths of my soul. This is my experience of the dogman or werewolf, whatever you call it. It still wakes me up in a cold sweat, looking frantically around and checking my door and window locks. Sometimes I still get a feeling like I'm being watched. I also need to study everything I can find in books or on video. The final part of the upload is a article I found in a military magazine called "We Are the Mighty." Was the Chupacabra, a military experiment, April 5th, 2022. Numerous people are usually fascinated by the story of the Chupacabra, with speculations revolving around it as an unknown alien, animal, or military experiment that went sideways. It is not surprising to find other people thinking the Chupacabra as the basis of the HIV/AIDS virus. While the stories and theories concerning the strange Chupacabra have traveled far and wide, there is no factual information. These stories bloom on the original person account of individuals who claim to observe and not forget the very active imagination of the public. The Chupacabra theory. Chupacabra came from a comedian from Puerto Rico known as Salvador Perez, meaning goat sucker in Spanish. It originates from the animals reported drinking livestock blood, especially goat. The original reports of a strange creature developed in 1975 into the global imagination after a series of livestock killings in Puerto Rico. Several rural villagers claimed that an unknown animal was killing their livestock in the early morning by cutting their necks. Additionally, witnesses reported hearing shrieking noises and flapping sounds similar to that of a giant bird. It was suspected that a satanic cult executed the destruction. Moreover, the original eyewitness reports defined a creature that looked like a lizard beast, nearly a tiny bear with huge round eyes and sharp glowing quills on its back. This beast was reported to the hop like a kangaroo, release a weird piercing cry, and drink blood like a bat. The Chupacabra theory peaked in 1995 when 8 sheep were found dead with puncture wounds on their chest in a triangular form. 20 years after, the sightings of Vampire of Mocha, which was a case similar to Chupacabra. The press from Puerto Rico started again to report the sightings of a mysterious beast that attacked livestock. Other people from the island think the Chupacabra are a genetic bioexperiment that got away from a secret laboratory. This is mainly because the military has continually had a massive presence since the 30s across Puerto Rico, with bases on the island utilized as research and development facilities for several classified projects. Further, the people claim it may be a military experiment because the UFOs have been observed around the same time the discovery of the Chupacabra was suspected. However, many are convinced that it's a military experiment that went terribly sideways. A fled life form of unidentified origin, the product of a cloning experiment conducted by the military. A particular biologist claims that numerous sightings of the Chupacabra are possibly connected to coyotes experiencing mange, which is a disease brought about by mites digging under the coyote's skin. This disease leaves these coyotes with risky hair loss, defined by individuals who insist observing the Chupacabra. Notably, scientists' explanation of the suspected Chupacabra carcass usually has turn-up evidence of the mange, which is brought about by the same mite species that trigger the itchy rash referred to as scabies in humans. Since the disease leaves the animals heavily weakened, it gives them a hard time hunting for their regular prey, making them go for easier options on livestock. Another possibility that can explain the Chupacabra is what skeptics state. People probably imagined things after hearing or watching an alien horror movie. Species that opened in the summer of 1995 in Puerto Rico. Some further argue that if you examine the movie's opening date, you would notice that it collides with the original explosion of reports in that area. Alright folks, I hope you all enjoyed this bonus upload as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that keeps the channel growing and going. And honestly, what makes it a place for people to share their experiences, ideas, and theories, judgment and ridicule free, just simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Thank you. Everyone stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real, they are out there, and they are dangerous. Share this information with the people you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for answers, and God bless.